I started working as a neurologist after my medical school, and I remember I questioned why all of my neurological patients had digestive problems. Generally speaking, in the medical profession, we divide a human being into bits, and every bit has its own specialist attached to it. A gastroenterologist looks at the digestive system, neurologist looks at the nervous system, orthopedic surgeon looks at your bones, and so on, and they usually don't look at other systems in the body. So because our patients had digestive symptoms, we just referred them to gastroenterologists and followed their recommendations. That was it. And later on, when I started my own family, my first child was diagnosed with autism at the age of 3, which threw me in a huge learning curve, because quite quickly I realized that my own profession had nothing to offer my beloved child. So I had to trawl all information I could find. The internet was only just appearing on the planet at that time. It didn't exist yet properly. So we had the local library, we had the books, we had the papers, we had the old way of searching for information. And the result of all this, I went back to university, I studied human nutrition, as well as being a neurologist. And as a result of this is that my child fully recovered. He has no signs of autism anymore, and he's at university and leading a normal life. He's a healthy young man. And that has changed my whole perception on health and illness completely. I could not practice the way I used to practice anymore. I had to do it differently from that day on. Today, people live in a daily life where they have grains for breakfast, they have a toast and a cereal, then they have a sandwich for lunch, and they have a pasta in the evening, and they have something in between these meals. So 70–80% of anything that fills their digestive system on a daily basis is wheat. It's just one plant, wheat. And that is not normal. That is not the way it's supposed to be. I don't think the human body has been designed that way. That is one factor. Another factor is that the hybrids of wheat that we're growing today and we're consuming today are very, very different from what Mother Nature has created as wheat. On top of that, the way you make the bread. People for thousands of years ate bread, and the way they made it was very, very important. They wouldn't dream of consuming wheat without fermenting it properly. And not just fermenting it with yeast, they're fermenting it with lactobacilli, with lactobacteria. And it was a long process, and it was a very patient process. It was a craft, it was a skill. Today what we have just a few companies in the country. In Britain we have only 2 companies that make these flour pre-mixes, which are sent to all the bakeries in the country. And these bakeries just mix it with water, according to a specification, put it in the machine and bake. And these pre-mixes are chemical concoctions. They have no resemblance to what bread was for thousands of years to the humanity. It isn't bread, it is a completely newfangled chemical concoction which looks like bread and smells a bit like bread and can keep forever in a plastic bag from the moment you bought it. We have changed the environment on our planet quite rapidly and quite drastically. Only in the last 60–70 years, after the Second World War, really, the major changes came in. What happened is food industry appeared on the planet, which did not exist before at all. People used to eat seasonal food, and women used to cook for breakfast, lunch and dinner, because there was no supermarket where you could buy anything and stick it in the microwave. Whatever you grown in your own garden, whatever you could buy on the local market, and things were perishable and things were seasonal. So you had to ferment foods in order to preserve them. So people ate a lot of fermented foods, and women knew how to cook. Because humanity knew until recent times that there's nothing more powerful than food in terms of affecting human health. Absolutely. Gut flora is an extremely important part of our human physiology. In fact, the research has shown, recent research has shown, that 90% of all cells and all genetic material in our bodies is our gut flora. 90%. So we are just 10%, a shell, a habitat for this mass of microbes inside us. And we ignore them at our peril. Their combination and their composition is absolutely vital for the rest of us, for the 10% of us to be healthy and to function at all and to live at all on this planet. And human beings, by default, looked after their gut flora for all of our existence through fermented foods. Because for millennia we didn't have refrigeration. So when your cabbages have ripened in September, if you didn't do something with them, they'll rot away in a couple of months and you'll be left without cabbages for the rest of the year. So if you kill the deer and you haven't eaten all that meat within a few days, it will again spoil and you will not be able to eat it. So what did people do? They fermented food. Because fermentation is one of the best ways of preserving food for a very long time. Every mouthful of that fermented food provides you with teeming population of microbes, of beneficial lactobacilli, lactobacteria, which top up your gut flora, bring in a bit more of the troops of the beneficial ones in there to keep all the others under control, and just keeping the whole thing in check. Since our food industry started controlling the way we eat, we stopped eating fermented foods. People forgot that these things actually exist. Even on top of that, we have invented antibiotics, which are lifesavers, and they should be used as lifesavers. Unfortunately, majority of prescriptions are not in that category. Antibiotics are prescribed for every cough and sneeze in our world. And broad-spectrum antibiotics have a devastating effect on beneficial colonies of microbes in our gut. They basically get killed. So the food doesn't get the chance to be digested properly before it absorbs. You start absorbing your food improperly digested, partially digested. And then the immune system finds these undigested foods in your bloodstream, looks at them and says, "You're not food. I don't recognize you as food," and attacks them. And this attack manifests itself as a food allergy or intolerance, which is another epidemic in our modern world, and it is a growing epidemic. And the problem with food allergies and intolerances is that they can be immediate or they can be delayed. There are laboratories now in the world who can test for these food allergies and intolerances, and they will tell you which foods are the most troublesome for you and which foods are a bit less troublesome. The key here is not so much removing foods. The key is to focus on your gut flora and your gut wall. Heal and seal your gut wall and normalize your gut flora. And your food allergies and intolerances will disappear, because your food will start digesting properly before it absorbs. Make no mistake, vast majority, the bulk of anything toxic, anything damaging that floats in your blood came out of your digestive system. Nowhere else. That is the major source of toxicity in the body. And if your digestive system is unhealthy, you can be struggling trying to heal yourself forever and you will not recover. It is the first place that you have to address. We have a situation